Let's talk sexuality. Hello and welcome to the podcast Let's Talk Sexuality by Tathapi Trust, the podcast that brings to you stories on relationship and sexuality.
Hey, it's the Storytellers once again, and I'm your host Peter. Today's story is a very short one, told to us by Divya. Hi Divya, thank you for being with us.
Hi Peter, I'm happy to be here.
Divya, so tell us, why did you choose this story?
Well, it's a very simple and light story for everyone to enjoy, with enough masala to sustain the interest of the listeners.
Okay, so now let's listen to Divya's telling of Salt.
Salt. It was an incredible party. The DJ was on fire, everyone was having fun. The food was excellent, and for a few of the listeners who are like me, they know how important that is. Many happy faces and interesting conversations. And there she was. The stone-cold fox dressed in white. She was like a Bugatti Chiron, classy, breathtaking, turning heads wherever she went. And of course, there he was, our protagonist. Well, he was like a Maruti 800, absolutely regular. The kind of face that was normally lost in the crowd. But he somehow mustered the courage to walk up to her and invited her to have coffee with him. She was surprised, but she was polite, so she promised. They sat in a nice coffee shop. He was too nervous to say anything, and she felt uncomfortable. She thought to herself, "Please let me go." Suddenly he asked the waiter, "Would you please give me some salt? I'd like to put it in my coffee." Everybody stared at him. So strange. His face turned red, but still, he put the salt in his coffee and drank it. She asked him curiously, "Why do you have this hobby?" He replied, "When I was a little boy, I lived near the sea. I liked playing in the sea and I could feel the taste of the sea, just like the taste of the salty coffee. Now every time I have the salty coffee, I always think of my childhood, think of my hometown. I miss my hometown so much. I miss my parents who are still living there." While saying that, tears filled his eyes. She was deeply touched. That's his true feeling from the bottom of his heart. And a man who can tell out his homesickness must be a man who loves home, cares about home, has responsibility of home. Then she also started to spoke about her faraway home, her childhood, her family. That was a really nice talk. Also, a beautiful beginning to their love story. They continued to date. She found that actually he was a man who meets all her demands. He had tolerance, he was kind-hearted, warm, careful. He was such a good person, but she almost missed him, thanks to his salty coffee. Then the story was just like every other beautiful love story. The princess married to the prince, and then they were living happily ever after. And every time she made coffee for him, she put some salt in the coffee, as she knew that's the way he liked it. After 40 years, he passed away, left her a letter which said, "My dearest, forgive me, please forgive me, for my whole life was a lie. This was the only lie I said to you. The salty coffee. Remember the first time we dated? I was so nervous at that time. Actually, I wanted some sugar, but I said salt. It was hard for me to change, so I went ahead. And I never thought that could be the start of our communication. I tried to tell you the truth many times in my life, but I was too afraid to do that. as I have promised not to lie to you for anything. Now I am dying, so I tell you the truth. I don't like the salty coffee. What a strange bad taste. But I have had this salty coffee for my whole life. Since I knew you, I never feel sorry for anything I do for you. Having you with me is my biggest happiness for my whole life. If I can live for the second time, I still want to know you and have you for my whole life. Even if it means 40 years of salted coffee all over again. Her tears made the letter totally wet. One day someone asked her, "What's the taste of this salty coffee?" She smiles and replies, "Very, very sweet."
That's a sweet romantic story. Thank you, Divya. But I didn't know you liked romantic stories.
Well, these are not the kind of stories I normally tell, but the story had a number of phrases that had me hooked. Well, for one, she was like a Bugatti Chiron. Classy, breathtaking, turning heads wherever she went. And he was like a Maruti 800, absolutely regular. The kind of face that was normally lost in the crowd. There was another one. "Excuse me, waiter. May I have some salt for my coffee?" And then 40 years of coffee all over again. And of course, the last line, Peter. The one where she says, "Very, very sweet."
Really a sweet story. You know, I was wondering, why did he keep it a secret for so long? It was such a small thing.
Well, there is the aspect of people's true self and how they mask it. How they try hard to be someone they are not and like to live a lie, even if momentarily, just to, impress others. Don't you see it in many first interactions? I mean, people are hardly their calm, wonderful selves. We have all been there. Family functions, interactions with colleagues, or, to sum it up, interactions with the unknown. We are seldom 100% our true selves.
Yeah, that's a fact. So what stays with you in this story?
I was wondering, how much can a lie really be stretched? The crux of the relationship was based on a lie. Why does it still make this such a great love story? Is it because the guy wanted things to work out so badly that he was willing to lie and eventually cared an awful lot to live through it? Or is it because it was such an improbable love story? I would like to ask you listeners, why did this story appeal to you? Leave your thoughts and comments. I would really like to read them.
Well, that's our story for today. Thank you, Divya. Thank you to the person who wrote the story, even though we have no idea who it is. And of course, thank you all our listeners out there. I hope you enjoyed the storytelling and do join us for our next podcast in a fortnight from today.
This podcast is brought to you by Tathapi Trust Pune, a women and health organization. Be sure to give us your comments and suggestions for stories you want to hear on letstalksexuality.com. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have fun.